Hi, my name is Eric Smith, and this is an excerpt from my autobiographical series, My Life in Not So Much a Nutshell, but More of a Melon Rind. And this is from the second of those 4 books. In late fall of 2013, my friend Sierra needed surgery. She asked me if I could babysit her kids while she was in the hospital. Her husband Kevin had to work and then would be at the hospital with Sierra. I agreed to watch the kids. Little Emmett was about 3 years old, while baby Evangeline was not even a year old. That first night after the baby fell asleep, Emmett asked me to tell him a story. Once upon a time, in a land called Inforgio, there lived a boy called Tatsu, I began. Tatsu was part of a group of native cannibals. He, however, was unlike his fellow natives. Tatsu didn't like the ideologies of the native Inforgians. He didn't like murder and cringed at the idea of eating other humans. On the neighboring islands of Salifa and King's Island, there lived a group of other people. These people were a bit more civilized. They lived in small houses and ate vegetables and meat from animals. One night, Tatsu snuck out of his family's skin tent and crossed the river that separated Inforgio from King's Island. He walked through the forest for a while and eventually came across an enormous castle made of stone blocks. He had heard of this dwelling, but had never actually seen it before. Emmett was completely engrossed in my tale by this point. Tatsu approached the castle and was stopped by a tripwire that stretched between 2 trees. Tatsu fell into a bramble bush. "Halt!" a man in a black tunic and metal helmet hollered. "Who are you that comes from the forest? Who are you who trespasses upon the royal grounds? Long live King Stanley!" "Sorry," Tatsu cried aloud. "I am but a teenage peasant from the neighboring island. I wish to be fed, but some real food." From behind the young guard came a middle-aged man with a long flowing purple cloak and a jewel-encrusted sheath with a diamond-plated hilt sticking out of the end. "What's going on here?" The black tunic guard bowed his head. "Lord Wiltshire, it is a young Inforgian. He has asked for a legitimate meal. He seems to have defected from the tribe, but it could be a trap, your lordship." "Feed the boy. But be on the lookout for other Inforgians," Lord Wiltshire instructed. "Take him to my brother when he has had a bath and a hearty dinner." Emmett put his hand up and ran off to the bathroom. When he came back, he said, "Okay, go ahead." After Tatsu had eaten a 5-course meal, the castle nanny came into the kitchen and directed him to a bath. "You're to be cleaned and clothed before you meet His Majesty," she said. An hour later, the nanny led him through a corridor and into a large chamber. There was a throne sitting atop a small dais. A guard stood on either side of the dais. Each guard had a rifle. "The king will be along shortly, young one," the nanny said, patting the boy on the head. "So precious." She then walked back through the door that leads into the corridor they had just entered by. "He's meeting the king?" Emmett said. "Oh yes," I replied to his query. A few minutes later the king arrived. He was nearing old age but had boyish charm. He wore chain mail of white glowing metal and a bushy regal cape. "Young Inforgian," King Stanley said in a powerfully deep voice, "did you enjoy your meal and bath?" Scared but impressed, Tatsu replied, "Yes, your majesty, thank you very much." The king waved away the boy's gratitude. "What is your name, child?" "Tatsu Kai, sir." "Well, Tatsu, why have you seemingly abandoned your cannibalistic tribe?" the king asked with a stern look on his face. "Please, sir, I haven't abandoned the tribe," Tatsu began. "I am not like them, but I care about a few of them. The rest, though," Tatsu trailed off. "The rest are evil," the king finished for him. Tatsu nodded solemnly. King Stanley considered the young man for a minute. "Tatsu, son, I have a grand plan to eliminate the violent members of your tribe. I give you warning. Take the people that you care about and move them to the floating islands in the sky." "How do I do that, your highness?" Tatsu asked. The floating islands had little access to the ground. "Magic," replied the king. "You see, magic keeps the islands in place and makes them sustainable. My Grand Vizier Ralphazor has magic. He will take your loved ones and anyone else you wish to save up to Donut Island." Tatsu thought for a minute. Why, your majesty, shall we move to the Skylands? Because a great purge is about to happen. It has been foretold of your coming, the king explained. My Grand Vizier has seen it. Once you get a small population of Unforgians to the Skylands, a new enlightenment shall happen in the lands. I looked down at Emmett. He had fallen asleep. I laid his head on the pillow and moved myself to the couch. I'll tell you the rest later, young one. Good night.